Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm, cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm playing. Introductions not.
Welcome to the social-engineer.org podcast number 44.
Number 44!
Yep, for all of you who've missed it, that is our special guest today. Dave Kennedy decided to actually come back to the podcast that made him famous.
Hey, listen, I apologize to all the listeners that I haven't been on lately. It's just been, crazy busy and stuff like that, plus Jordan smells. Word.
We're not together in the same room.
Oh, yeah, good point.
I missed you more than Michael Bay missed the mark when he made Pearl Harbor, Dave.
Oh, ouch.
Thanks, buddy. I'm gonna go drive myself over a car now.
Drive yourself over a car?
Well, underneath the car. Sorry.
Oh, see, that's like intelligent smackdowns. Like Jordan actually just used something that some people are now sitting at Google going, "Wait, what's that? Wait, what did he do? What?"
The fact that he knew the names and then Pearl Harbor is alarming to me, but that's Jordan.
Jordan's a pretty intelligent guy, so so now people are Googling this to find out what the smackdown meant, and then they're all like, "Oh, that was bad."
It's true.
Some people have seen Team America,
Yeah.
So they're like, "Oh, I see what you did there."
Well, it's too early in the.
In all actuality, I missed you very much, Jordan. I missed you, Chris, and Ping as well, and I missed everybody on the podcast. And I'm glad to be back on, and I'll be on more often.
Yeah, we actually missed you. We spent a lot of time in the podcast talking about you.
I know. I listened to the prior podcasts just to catch up, and I'm sitting there crying as I hear them too. So I mean, I do miss you guys.
Anyhow, onward and forward.
Sitting on a toilet.
Oh no! I got some big news. Big news. Come on, act a little excited.
Ready?
Yeah,
I'm ready.
Hang on.
Oh, I was waiting for a sound effect. I thought you were tapping on your keyboard. Okay, that's a drum roll.
How about like a... I
love it.
Hang on.
Awesome. Okay, I just hired my second employee.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Hey,
I'm just kidding.
You suck so bad, Jordan. No, she's awesome. She really is awesome. Her name is Michelle Fincher. She's ex Air Force. Thank you. She's ex Air Force. She taught at the Air Force Academy. She's got a master's degree in psychology. She did tech training for a couple companies. Trained her at Black Hat before. She's just phenomenal, really phenomenal. She's already taken the company into the next level. Already, just started a week ago, and she's already taken it to the next level.
Is that overboard?
The bar was low.
I'm sorry?
It was like Tetris next level, where you're playing for 4 minutes, and you're like, "Holy crap! I'm on level 3."
Yeah.
So she has to deal with. How is she dealing with your personality?
She's amazing because she's a psychologist, obviously, and she actually is. Her communication style is an S, so she's a supporter. So we work well together because she's not like the kick the door down, take charge kind of person like I am. So we actually are opposites on the communication scale, which works great because I'm the guy who's like, you ticked me off. I'm canceling your business. I hate your guts. And she's more like, calm down. Let's think about this and talk about it like human beings. And, it's working really well.
So basically she's like a digital inhaler for your temper tantrums.
Yeah. Yeah, she's awesome. And she was in one of the classes with me already training. She has a huge background knowledge on because of her psychology degree in influence and persuasion. Those were areas of study for her. Nice. So she's adding a lot. She'll be in Ireland with me. We're leaving in 2 or 3 weeks for Ireland to go there and do our course. So she'll be training there. And she'll be at Black Hat as one of the trainers with our course, which, by the way, we're in Black Hat. So I know I usually let everyone go first, but I was really excited, and I wanted to get it out there because I'm really excited that I'm growing, man. Dave's not the only one. I know you just hired 80 people, but hey, I hired 2, and I'm really happy with that. So
that's huge. That's awesome.
I'm really excited. So that's my news. Besides all the training, we got tons of training. relaunching the website shortly. Hopefully that will be out really soon. So we're redoing the whole site so it looks a little more professional. But what's going on with you guys? Dave, what's up, man?
Not much, man. Just been busy. I got this isn't like a Trump thing or anything, but I got 5 employees, including myself. So growing, which is great. And
I think the last podcast you were on, you had 2.
Yeah.
So that was only like 3 months ago or 2 months ago.
Yeah, it's been going good.
That's awesome, man. That's really awesome.
Traveling a lot. I'm in Chicago right now, and then I fly out from Chicago to South Dakota, and then finally get a week break because last week I was in Alabama. So just been traveling a lot, but it's been going great. Having a great time. Great team. I mean, everything's just been going really well, man. Kids are doing good. Everything's going great. And I'm teaching at Black Hat as well.
Awesome. How's your class going?
Good. It's going to be social engineering for penetration testers. And
oh man,
nice. That sounds awesome.
I don't know why I missed you. I don't know why I missed you. I
can't believe no one's done that class before.
Yeah, it's the first time ever.
First time ever. It's a brand new thing at Black Hat. They're really excited and promoting it like crazy. So I'm excited about that class. But I'll be teaching secret pen testing techniques, which is just more of a hey, how do I do penetration tests? What are the tricks of the trade? That type of thing. Over some codes, things that I use to bypass a lot of the technology out there. So it should be pretty good 2-day course.
You do? Oh, so you're doing 2 days, or just doing 1?
Doing 2 days.
Nice, very nice.
Yep.
Awesome, man. Well, congratulations on all of that. That sounds pretty cool. Jordan, what's up with you, bro?
Man, I have 47 employees. No, I'm just kidding.
That's why I started, because I knew that I was the smallest and that if I came in after all of your great success stories, it would seem lamer. So I'm just, I started out. So
now to be fair, the Art of Charm does not have 47 employees, just so everybody knows.
46.
Yes, it's only a few dozen. I lost count a while ago. It's no big deal. The company. I mean, we're doing really well. We've sold out in New York. Coming up in June, we've got a very little availability, but we're trying to squeeze people in. So if guys are interested in that, we've actually got some really cool people that have come through the program, though. A lot of people from the SE podcast. We've got some people. A lot of internationals have been coming through, like Brazil, Mexico, Denmark. Of course, Canada and the U.S. So it's made for some pretty interesting programs. We even have a dude here who's a Canadian guy who works in Saudi Arabia. So that was kind of cool. Just have like people telling some ridiculous stories at the programs. And of course, handcuff guy came back through. I told that story last week. Last time.
We got a lot of tweets on that one.
That was awesome.
Did you? Good. Yeah. I'm glad to hear it because, and I love it. It's like people are like, he tells the story differently. And I'm like, well, wouldn't you tell that story differently?
Yeah, if that was me, I wouldn't even tell the story. If that was me, I would never tell the story. I would not admit that was me, ever.
Yeah, no kidding. I know, I wouldn't tell the story. Yeah, it would tell the story differently. I'd be like, yeah, who was that guy? Exactly. So, yeah, the programs have been really cool. We revamped a lot of the curriculum and, we've had a lot of guys come through the SE podcast, and we've come up with some different financing so that people who are like, oh, it's going to be too expensive can pay over time and everything.
So when your guys come to the course, they stay in a house, right?
Right, exactly.
So how do you do that when you go to New York, because you guys are stationed out West Coast?
We don't include the accommodation in New York, so the program's a little bit discounted, and people just get we usually call a hotel and get a huge block of rooms. And we usually call the most irresponsible hotel in Manhattan, so they're like, huh. They don't care that there's all these people running amok or whatever.
Running amok. Yes, that's awesome.
It's
awesome.
Dudes gone wild. No, it's not that. It's not that. People have a misconception that there's all these bros running around fist pumping at our programs, and it's not like that at all. It's a lot of really responsible analytical types. We got a guy here this week from Yahoo. He's one of their, probably shouldn't say what he does because there's 2 of them. So
we'll all be looking him up. You realize you're on the Social Engineer podcast, right? So
he told us a really cool story. I'll just drop this real quick. Check this out. So I can't remember who this hacker was, but it's some guy from Anonymous or something. This guy who's here for a class, who works for Yahoo, worked for some other, like, some jobs website ages ago or something like that. And he gets a message at like 7 a.m. from one of his security guys and goes, dude, watch all the whatever you guys have for like defenses, like watch all those this today because I did something stupid and I hacked this dude's box that like I shouldn't have touched. And it's like some, anonymous super hacker dude. And so like nothing happens. And they're like, weird, either he's so good we don't even see him, so everyone's like looking through the system, making sure the change logs aren't getting deleted or modified or whatever, and then like nothing happens. So like a few days later, oh, by the way, the dude, when he hacked the box, he pinched a home video of this guy with his girlfriend. Like that's like real bad news, right? Because you're sitting there going, what on earth is going to happen with this video? And you're afraid to get revenge because, like, what if you hack the dude back and he's like, screw you, I'm going to release this video on the internet, right? Something like that. So what the guy did was brilliant, okay? A few days later, a package arrives at the hacker's house, the guy who did the initial hacking and pinched the video. He opens the package, and a giant EMP goes off and destroys $10,000 worth of this guy's electronics. So all the hard drives, all his workstations, his phones, televisions, everything, microwave, all the way down to the microwave.
Dang.
Do you think that's a true story?
I don't know.
Like something
an EMP?
I can't.
I haven't heard of many EMPs going off before, but I could be wrong. I mean.
Well, okay, so the only question I would have, I guess, is how would he get the EMP to trigger just when the box was open?
Well, like anything, you have a pressure switch in there. That part's easy. I could do that part. The rest of the EMP, I don't understand.
All right, so Jordan, I'm going to get with you after this call, and we're going to try to do the same thing to Chris.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. Yeah.
I'll work on the EMP side. You work on the trigger pressures, and I want to blow up Chris's computer equipment.
And here's the good part.
Yeah.
Here's the good part. My buddy in the FBI will have this recording because we're recording this conversation. And when that happens, I now have both of you admitting that you're going to do this, and I'll have you arrested and own your businesses.
Yeah,
tell your 5 employees, Dave, that they're working for me now.
I have buddies in the FBI, by the way, so my buddy's going to go against your buddies.
Yeah, my buddy runs the behavioral analysis program and catches terrorists all day. So,
my buddy runs the FBI.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. I saw your buddy in your Harlem Shake video. Okay, he's not impressive. Okay.
His initials are FBI, like it's his company.
Yeah.
It's his agency. The hardest thing to do. You know what you would have to. You would have to figure out how you'd have to prove, for one thing, that this EMP thing worked and that it destroyed the devices. So, like, you'd have to bring in this box of, like, magnets and be like, this is what ruined everything. And you'd have to pay some scientist expert witness, like, $15,000 to explain it to a jury. It wouldn't even be worth it. It would be more worth it to just, like, replace all your crap than it would be to hire the expert to explain how it works. Because this is what the judge is going to go. So, a box of magnets arrived at your door from an anonymous person, and it somehow ... reached out and ruined all your devices, and you're going to blame Dave for that. And you're going to be like, that's correct. So,
and I'm going to be like, no, it's not, because I have this recording of Dave saying he's going to do that.
So let me recap. I am not going to do it. Hey, Jordan, I'm going to talk to you after this podcast, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. It's already recorded.
Sounds good.
Anyhow,
I just recanted my statement. I'm not going to do it. I have no intention of doing it, but I'm still going to talk to Jordan after this podcast, and we're still going to plan something.
Okay, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I still got the recording, and only the first part's going to not be deleted. Hey, Ping.
Hello. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. So
How's it going?
We were just getting the guest on, which we didn't yet, but no, we're glad to have you. We're glad to have you in, Ping, because we need that balancing force. It was just Dave for a while, and it was bad, and
Just been Dave.
well, Jordan got disconnected because his internet went to Gehenna, and it was just terrible. So we finally got Ping on the phone. It's great because we didn't know if we were getting her today. She was busy. So
Yes, I was. I was busy waiting for my boss to go take a shower.
well, that's an interesting statement, which won't ask for clarification.
That checks out.
We will not ask for clarification on that. I just had a splendid time in Amsterdam. It was freezing cold, but I actually enjoyed being able to be social and not be all super worrisome about the event. So it was actually a very good showing. It was a good crowd there, and everyone loved the content. And like I said, I had a good time. So Black Hat USA, because I'm on the review board, I must say that the call for papers for USA closes on April 15th. So anyone who hasn't submitted better go to cfp.blackhat.com. And the briefing's early rate closes on May 31st, which is a bit later than it was last year. But if you want to get a seat in training, like for Dave Kennedy's or Chris Hadnigy's class, you should register much sooner than later, because I have a feeling that the classes will fill up fairly quickly again this year, as it did last year.
I hope so. And thank you.
And you're welcome. And at Accuvant, we are looking for pen testers and developers.
Uh-huh.
So if anyone is interested in working at Accuvant, it does not matter about your geographical region or even your skill set level. They'll give you a practical exam. And of course, you have to go through the hoops of all the interviews. But if you have good coding skills or dev skills or AppSec or Attack and Pen, we are looking to hire. So drop me a line. It's plook@accuvant.com. Or you can send a note to Chris. Chris will forward it to me because he loves me.
I do.
And get your stuff in. We're interested. Get it in now.
Get it in
Register
now.
for Black Hat. Register for Chris's class or for Dave's class, and apply to go work at Accuvant. Those are your three items, people.
And take a boot camp from the Art of Charm.
That's what.
And take a boot camp from the Art of Charm before you start to work at Accuvant, so you are presentable in front of our clients.
That's right.
And
And so you know how to properly hit on
when
ping.
you go to Black Hat to take one of the classes, you are feeling confident and social and make the most out of the event.
Exactly.
Wow. Look at that. Everything you possibly need for a full life right here at the Social
That's right. Hook you up with a job,
podcast.
hook you up with a significant other, or further you in your job by taking Jordan's class, and then increase your skills by taking Chris's or Dave's class.
Okay, now what I got to do is get this guy in because he's got a meeting. No,
Thanks.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you were gonna. I thought you were gonna do a normal
I was just saying thank you. I want to get a thank you in there before we started because I wasn't going to be able to do a thank you later.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yeah. No, I love paying.
Thank you.
So, Paul
Thanks,
Zach,
Bing.
he's our guest,
Thanks,
Dr. Paul Zach. Paul has done research into trust and chemical compounds that actually create trust that we all have in our body. And we're going to get him in and we're going to talk about this because he's got some really interesting research. Let me just see if I could tie him in. Okay, we got our guest on, Dr. Paul Zach. Paul, thanks for joining us today. So maybe before we even start talking, asking a lot of questions, you can just tell us a little bit about you and your background and how you got into the research that you're doing now.
Right. Mostly I'm a guy up the street that you ran into somewhere. No, I'm a professor at Claremont Graduate University in Southern California, and I work in the intersection of neuroscience and economics. So we focus on how people make decisions and how to understand those decisions by measuring what activity those decisions produce in the brain. And so we, like you, are very interested in social engineering, and we use in fact, we're now building algorithms around these neuroscience signals to try to understand why people do what they do. So it turns out if you just ask people, Chris, why did you buy that fancy Porsche? They give you all kinds of interesting reasons, none of which have really anything to do with their brain activity. So we think of neuroscience as sort of cutting out the middleman. I don't need to have it go through your processing your brain to rationalize some decision on why a Porsche was absolutely the best car for you. When your brain is telling you.
So that makes sense. Now, how that would lead you down the path of looking at trust. But how did you actually get involved in looking at this particular chemical in the brain that produces trust?
Right. So this chemical I discovered that makes people trust others, makes us care about strangers, makes us moral in the sense that we engage in positive social behaviors when our brain makes this chemical, oxytocin. Came out of work I did in the late 90s looking at why countries were rich or poor. And it turns out economics has very little to do with that, but social and legal factors explain much of that. And one of the important social factors we discovered was trust. And so in countries where trust is high, more transactions occur, which create wealth, and that generates increases in living standards. And so this work had a lot of impact. The World Bank flies me out. How do we raise trust in these developing countries? This is a powerful way to stimulate development. And I always got this very basic question in seminars, which was, gee, for a given environment, so my work was across environments, so why two-thirds of Norwegians trust each other, but only 2% of Colombians trust each other? And we could actually do a very good job of explaining that using mathematical models and testing these models empirically. But the basic question I would get was, gee, for a given environment, why do two strangers ever trust each other, particularly when there are real resources on the line? So I thought, gee, if I'm some, quote, trust expert, I should be able to answer the most basic question. And there really wasn't a good answer to that in any of the ologies that I read, psychology, sociology, economics, all these things, they all sort of danced around it, but no one really had a great approach. And yet there was an emerging animal literature identifying oxytocin, which is a brain chemical that motivates maternal care for offspring in mammals, and in some species, sort of cohabitation of, like rodents that live in burrows, will release oxytocin to say, oh, that's Chris, that's my burrow mate Chris. I can affiliate with him and snuggle up in our little burrow. But it had never been studied in humans. There's no real medical disorder associated with too much or too little oxytocin other than preterm labor. And so it's just thought to be this kind of hormone of labor. And anyway, so I basically took the animal literature and figured out a way to start testing this in humans. That sounds easy, but it turns out to be kind of hard because it's a very shy little molecule. It sort of coaxes out of the brain and then capture it fast before it disappears. But once we figured out how to do those things technically, now we've got 10, 11 years worth of research. And by our lab and lots of other labs now have done this, in which we've shown that a variety of positive social interactions induce the brain to release oxytocin. And when oxytocin is released, people are much more likely to engage in positive social behavior. So if you're nice to me, I'm essentially going to be nice to you if you being nice to me causes my brain to release oxytocin. So we essentially found the biological basis for the golden rule, and the golden rule exists in every culture on the planet. So it tells us as human beings how we can extract value from relationships, even with strangers. And I think that's the triumph of the human species, is that we actually like to affiliate with strangers. It's fun to live in big cities. It's fun to meet new people. And that's not true for basically any other animal, other than animals that are very closely related, like ants and bees. So I was on a plane yesterday coming back from Albuquerque, flight delays, blah, blah, blah. And, people are talking with each other, and, people are a little bit stressed out. They're tired. They probably haven't eaten. And, if that was a plane full of rodents, fur would be flying. But for the humans, we hang out, we talk, we make jokes with the flight attendants, and, we all have the feeling of we're sort of in this together. There was one grumpy guy. One guy was sort of complaining about, it's too hot in here. And everyone else was like, shut up. We all know it. Just leave it alone. So, that's a behavior that I'm interested in. It's how we actually not only understand where this behavior comes from, but how we might design institutions or environments in which we might promote cooperative behavior and reduce things like conflict.
So you said that if our interactions produce oxytocin in you, so is it possible that someone could try to be friendly and nice and it does not produce the chemical?
Yeah, that's where the rubber hits the road. Very good question. This, like everything in the brain or body, it's not a one-to-one mapping. It's not like I release oxytocin and therefore, I love the entire world. Obviously, that's just one of many brain signals that are part of a larger brain circuit I call the home circuit. Home stands for human oxytocin-mediated empathy circuit. So we have this circuit in the brain that is sort of initially activated by the release of oxytocin, but uses a bunch of other brain chemicals and brain structures. And within that circuit, we're modulating our understanding of what someone else is doing by using empathy, by essentially forecasting what their feelings are. But I may feel empathy for, say, the homeless guy and still decide cognitively that I don't want to give him money because I think he's a drug addict and he'll, use the money to buy more drugs. And so I can inhibit that empathy response. So, for example, first responders learn how to inhibit this response. Otherwise, if they're, crying when they see that injured child from a car accident, they couldn't, assist that child and help that child survive or get better. So we've done a lot of work to look at factors that interrupt this response. And so high stress is one of those factors. So turns out that moderate stress motivates most people to kind of bond together. Let's get through this together. But very high levels of stress. So moderate stress is the turbulent airplane, in my analogy from earlier. But high stress. The airplane's on fire, and I want to get out the door and escape. I'm going to step over everyone in front of me, right? By and large. So high stress inhibits that reaching out response because we're in survival mode. It all turns out that high levels of testosterone inhibit the oxytocin response. So who of our panel, who are the least empathic people on the planet? Teenage boys, which Chris, Dave, and Jordan used to be, and me. And so
I can tell
a good evolution. Yeah, I can tell.
Dave still acts like one.
Yeah. I can tell an evolutionary story on why it's adaptive for young males to be more aggressive, take more risk, to do the things that high testosterone does, and therefore be less empathic. But at the same time, nature has given us this beautiful adaptive system in which, as men age over the age of 30, their testosterone falls. When you're in a committed relationship, your testosterone falls. When you have children, your testosterone falls. And so you start changing the balance between testosterone, aggression, risk-taking, and oxytocin, nurturing, care, building relationships. And we learn how to modulate that over time.
So, of course, as security people that will use social engineering to test companies, the interest part for us is how to get oxytocin to release in someone's brain and in essence causing them maybe to trust us more. So what can you do in normal everyday interactions with people that you don't know to create, people you don't know? You're going to go up and hug the secretary you're trying to infiltrate the company? Or
I hug everybody, Chris.
Yeah, but again, it's creepy. It's creepy, Dave. It's not building trust. It's creepy. You're like 6'2" and you're just weird looking. It's not. No, I can't imagine Dr. Zach's going to say that's a good idea.
We'll see. So we have 10 years worth of data on this. So the book I came out last year, The Moral Molecule, talks about all the experiments we've done, both on participants but also on myself. Like Dave, we're in some sense all of us are running these little mini experiments to see what works. How do we actually influence people to have an effect on their ultimate interactions with us? And so I think the first step when you're meeting someone new is to be fully present. And so we've done work, for example, on different forms of meditation and prayer, and showed that those actually release oxytocin. And so if I want to interact with Dave for the first time, I want to sit down and actually make sure that I'm giving him my full attention. So I'll make eye contact. Appropriate touch is good. I may want to shake hands or give him a hug. So you guys already know, because we talked offline, that as a rule, because we've shown that touch releases oxytocin, I just use the handshake, and I just say, look, I hug everybody because I'm the connection guy. And almost everybody, 99% of people say, oh, that's awesome, that's great. So I pre-announce this. So occasionally I get people who are sort of socially anxious and don't like that. They say, no, I really don't like being touched. I thought, oh, that's fine. Let's just chat then. So being present, using appropriate touch. The next is to think about the role of stories and rituals. So one thing we do when we meet people is we look for commonalities. Someone we know in common, someplace we've worked in common, common education. And so we're trying to build these relationships. So one way to think about oxytocin is it causes us to treat strangers like family. So this molecule that is responsible for the hallmark of mammals, which is care for offspring, live birth and care for offspring, it does both. So I want to form that family relationship with somebody new. So I want to find some way that we have a shared interest, a shared connection, where we have the same Facebook friends or whatever it is. Indeed, we've actually shown that social media use in a couple of small-scale experiments induce the release of oxytocin. So from the brain's perspective, yeah, we don't seem to differentiate between, me talking to Chris in person and me talking to Chris on the phone or through Skype or even tweeting.
Does there have to be a relationship basis first in order for that to be true, or is it?
It's a good question. We don't know the answer to that. What we do know is that the stronger the relationship, the existing relationship, the more oxytocin is released on average. So, as an example, we ran a couple of these experiments for TV shows. So we ran one for a TV program in South Korea, a news program, and actually flew into my lab in California, and we did a bunch of tests on them. And as we had them do, they were very interested in the social media experiments. They said, let's just put your reporters and producers in this. And so the experiment is you come in, you get a blood draw, use social media of any type that you like in private for 15 minutes, get another blood draw, we get a little bit of information about your emotional state, and then you're all done. And so anyway, we had this young producer in his early 20s who had this enormous 150% increase in his oxytocin levels, where typical people have, the sort of 15 to 20% increase when they use social media. And so when I wrote this report for the Koreans, because, the assays take a couple weeks to do, so they're already back home in Korea, I said, look, I don't know who this guy was interacting with, but my guess was either his mother or his girlfriend, someone who he had a really strong relationship with. And they checked, and he was posting to his girlfriend's Facebook page.
Huh.
So you can reverse engineer that problem, since we're talking about engineering. So if I can build a stronger relationship with somebody, then I'm more likely to induce oxytocin release in that person when I see them, even if they're just friends or even strangers. So the way to do that is to be, again, present, to be really transparent about why you're there. So remember, stress inhibits oxytocin release. So if I don't know why you're here or what you're doing, then I'm putting up my guard. I'm inducing the release of stress hormones, and I'm less likely to trust you. And again, remember, oxytocin is not this 0-1 variable. It's not like I release it and I'm trusting you completely. It's always trust but verify. So, but in general, the more oxytocin we see people release in experiments that are controlled experiments where people are, say, transferring money to strangers. The more oxytocin release, the more they're willing to share money with others.
See, that's interesting because, in our class, we teach the answer the why, what, how questions before they're asked, or why, when, how questions before they're asked. So, people have these questions in their brains as soon as you approach them, and if you let them actually ask it, then that verbalization can cause a lack in rapport or trust. So answer those questions right up front, either by your first statement or how you open, and by answering those questions, you ease the person's mind. Now here's science behind that whole thought, as opposed to just psychology. Now there's science behind it saying, by doing that, you're actually building a trust, like a trust connection between you and that person, because you answered these questions before they even had to be asked.
Right. And then, observe the person. I think one thing I've done is being much better observing people's facial expressions. And if you're seeing that, when they're talking to you, they have that kind of nervous, afraid look, they're not making eye contact, they're moving around, they're fidgety, that suggests that you're not doing a very good job, and you might want to try a different approach. So again, sort of part of this is just being present for the conversation. Turn off the cell phone, or leave it in your pocket, and try to really focus on being 100% there for that person. So we find that for individuals who have never meditated before, when we trained them in meditation using a professional meditation teacher, they were actually to not only release oxytocin during meditation, but found they could connect much better to people around them. And so I think the meditation approach says you need to kind of reduce all that noise in your head, the conversations that you have going internally about, the next thing you have to say when this person says something, and just try to reduce that if possible, and be fully present there. So how do you reduce that? Since many people are not trained in meditation, you can do a couple of things. One is to take deep breaths. So just like your mom told you when you're a little kid, Ping, she said, honey, you're stressed out, take a nice deep breath. So it turns out if you breathe deeply, that it tells your brain that you are relaxing. And so not only can you sort of cause yourself, so you can again, reverse engineer this process. So if you take a deep breath, your brain thinks that you're in a relaxed state. And so if you take a couple deep breaths, you can hold them and then release, then actually you lower your heart rate and you signal to the brain that everything's calm. So before you go into that big meeting, kind of prepare yourself, calm yourself down. And the second is something we call eyes closed silence. So even if you don't know how to meditate, you can just close your eyes for 5 minutes and just focus on not having a conversation in your head. Just focus on your breathing, or focus on the next thing you want to do. Just kind of focus on one thing. A lot of people will focus on someone they love. So just focus on how you feel about your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend, your dog, whatever it is, something that's just going to take you in to have one kind of thought in your head, that you're kind of getting rid of that noise. And then when you have that meeting with the next person in the room, you can just switch from one thought to one thought.
So all of that seems about building oxytocin in yourself, and it's fascinating because this it kind of has, like you said, a scientific backing now to all the things we heard. Maybe we were kids about being calm and getting your thoughts collected and doing better on tests and things like that. But I'm really fascinated about what you were saying before. So, like mixing, because we talk a lot, especially as social engineers, that validating people makes them feel good. And there was this research in the 90s, I think, that was done about dopamine and, validating someone and making them feel good about themselves builds rapport, and it releases dopamine, and it's excitement in their brain. I would imagine that even if that's true, that it also releases oxytocin from what you're saying if you mix things like active listening, showing an interest in the person with light, non-sexual touches, things like either a handshake or a arm touch or if you can go as far as a hug.
So, Chris,
all of this,
what I do to you all the time is not considered a good way to stimulate oxytocin?
No, not according to what the doc here is saying.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah. No, that's like I said, it's creepy.
You can handshake if you want, right? So sometimes that's an in-between. So, I think you have to learn how to modulate the person around you. And except one thing you said, Chris, was wrong. So it's not that you can release your own oxytocin, it's that you can be present and be safe. Oxytocin is sort of a safety signal or a familiarity signal. So you want to be safe and familiar and transparent, particularly for someone you don't know. And then actually their brains release oxytocin. And then if they reciprocate, then your brain's releasing oxytocin. So oxytocin is sometimes called the love molecule. So just like love, you can't force someone to love you. You can love them, and you hope you'll get that love in return. So think of this as giving someone a gift. So give someone the gift of being fully present, and having all your cards on the table, coming in really ready to make them successful. So we've been doing a lot of work now with organizations, and we've developed some tools to measure organizational trust. But part of that is understanding that as a leader, as a supervisor, your job is to make the people around you successful. Their job is not to make you successful. Your job is to give them the tools and the abilities and the training to be successful. And once you see yourself as a kind of a servant to them, then there's this nice feedback loop in which you're working so hard to help them that they want to work really hard to be productive and make you successful. And now we have a nice positive feedback loop.
Got it. I love this. And now we mentioned transparency a minute ago, and this is a social engineer podcast, so everyone went, "Oh, wah, wah, sad trombone. We got to be transparent the whole time." Right, but how do con men take advantage of things like oxytocin response to get us to trust them, and then take all of our life savings, or in the old school scenarios, our watch or whatever?
Right. Oh, great question. In fact, that's one of the stories in my book. That when I was 18, I worked at a gas station in a kind of a sketchy area in California by a freeway, and I got conned in a very classic con called the pigeon drop. And that kind of initiated my interest in human behavior. How did this guy actually get me to, hand him $100 out of the cash drawer? I was a kid, I didn't have any money, so I, borrowed $100 from the cash drawer. And then you got to call your boss and say, hey, I owe $100. This is like in 1980, so $100 is actually worth something.
Yeah.
So most cons work not because they get the victim to trust the con man, but the opposite. The con man shows he trusts the victim. So the con man shows that he's weak, that he's fragile, that he's injured, that he needs help. And usually when people approach us in that manner, "Oh, Chris, I really need help. My car broke down, and I was stupid. I left my wallet at home, and I have no way to get gas. And if I could just get $20 and give me your name, and I'll mail it back to you. I promise. And look, I have grease on my hands. I've been trying to fix my car." This like a child, right? We have this sort of different approach for children who we don't think as lying to us. A little child who's crying, people even non-parents will attend to them because they sort of can't help themselves. So con men will take on this sort of childlike, "Oh, if only I had, the resources you had, if only I could solve this problem, but I'm in such dire straits, and you're the only one who can help me." And, often that is, well, not often, but, occasionally that's true. It's a true story. So, again, we have to be attuned to whether that's, a con or whether it's, this person really does need help. And if they do need help, then, often you should help them. So just to cap off that story, when I wrote about this con on my blog, I got a ton of people contacting me, attorneys general, and all these people had prosecuted cons, had a lot of questions. And I did an interview with the CBC in Canada about this reporter who had been thought she'd been conned out of $20, and she described the con to me and had this sort of classic form. The lady needed help, and she was down on her luck. And anyway, the reporter gave her $20, and she said, "So was I conned or not?" I said, "Well, I don't know, but I think you invested $20 in believing that the world is a good place. And, you didn't give this woman $20,000. That wouldn't be appropriate. But for $20, you're going to give her the benefit of the doubt. And in addition, if she really was conning you and that's the only way she can earn $20, it's actually pretty sad. So she really needed the money anyway." So I would say, in our experiments, in our controlled laboratory experiments, we found that 95% of people we tested release oxytocin when they're trusted, when they receive a positive social interaction from a stranger, and they will reciprocate in kind. But 5% don't. And so it's the 5% who you have to worry about. And of that 5%, about half those are people who are stressed out, having a bad day, whatever. But about 2% of that 5%, 2% overall, have the attributes of psychopaths. So I mentioned I was in New Mexico yesterday, and we're doing work now in prisons on psychopaths. And these individuals don't have this empathy, oxytocin response. They don't reciprocate. They'll always take advantage of you. And in fact, they enjoy it. So, excuse me. So, 2% ain't bad, right? It means that 98% of the time, most people you interact with in a appropriately positive way will reciprocate. And by the way, we've done this. I know you guys have seen the book. So we've actually gone all around the world doing these experiments. So I was 2 summers ago in the rainforest of Papua New Guinea, and basically did the same experiment. Had these indigenous farmers in the rainforest, do a ritual dance that they've done or their ancestors have done for hundreds or thousands of years. And this ritual dance indeed caused them to release oxytocin. And when they released oxytocin, they felt closer to their community. They felt more invested in their community. And so it seems to be a fairly universal system in humans.
You told your story in the book, and I heard this one that you told because I think you told it on one of your speeches that I watched about the pigeon drop and how you got conned. Mm-hmm. And then you said something really interesting just a few minutes ago. So it's not about that person, you trusting that person. It's about the con artist making you feel like they trust you. And that feeling of trust is what may release the oxytocin that makes you feel good, which then makes you take an action that may not be good?
That's exactly right.
Huh. So, like on Amazon, you can go and you can buy bottles of oxytocin, right? They sell them on Amazon.com.
They don't really sell them. So there's a little story.
They don't?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is it?
Before I tell you where that came from.
Yeah, we're really curious about that because, you go and you start doing research on oxytocin. Of course, one of the searches come up, and bam, there it is. Amazon, and they got anywhere from $20 to $60 bottles of this stuff that you can spray on your nose or put on your tongue or whatever. What is this real?
Well, and real quick question too. It's my understanding that oxytocin only works like either via like a nasal spray or if you inject it into you. I don't think it works like if you ingest it. Correct?
That's correct. So it'll be broken down in the stomach. So part of the backstory in the book is the FDA would not allow me to infuse oxytocin into research subjects for a couple of years. So we ran our first study of this in Europe, where the laws are looser for whatever reason. And so I actually experimented on myself every way, short of a drill to get the stuff into my brain, and found the nose for kind of weird physiologic reasons is a good portal to the brain. So I found that I could shoot it up my nose in a sort of a mist, and this would, after about an hour, get into my brain, and that's how we started doing these experiments in Europe and in the U.S. now. So anyway, the backstory on so spritzing in the air not going to work. Spraying this stuff that you buy at Amazon on your hand and shaking someone's hand not going to work. So we put about 2 teaspoons of liquid up people's noses in experiments to get an effect. So 2 teaspoons, you're getting it. It's actually pretty unpleasant. You're getting a lot of liquid up your nose.
Yeah.
Okay, so the short backstory on this stuff online is that one of my colleagues, when we started doing this work, told me it was the world's stupidest idea because, quote, everyone knew this was just a female hormone. In other words, if women's brains make this, it can't be very important because, we know that men are more important than women. And
who says this?
Yeah, this guy said this. And,
really?
Yeah.
This is a doctor or a scientist?
Yeah, I was a doctor. OBGYN.
Yeah.
This is the guy you want to
Wow.
your baby.
Wow, he's an OB,
Yeah.
and he thinks...
But that was the dogma at the time. It was just a thing associated with birth and breastfeeding, and there was no reason to get excited about it. So anyway, we started. So I said, I could be wrong, but I'm testically wrong. In other words, I can run an experiment and actually see if oxytocin did more than just facilitate birth, if it promoted these positive social behaviors in humans like it did in animals. So we started doing the experiments, and because of that skepticism, we actually held off, started running these in 2001. We had a small publication in 2004, and in 2005, we had 4 publications come out in major journals, the top science journals, and lots of media attention. So inevitably, 3 months after, I go on TV talking about this stuff, products pop up on the internet, citing all my research in the media that I'd done, and, claiming that, we spray this on your neck, and girls love me, my boss gave me a raise, So anyway, these are all, quote, homeopathic, so that means they have 0 oxytocin. And indeed, oxytocin is a prescription drug, so you can't buy it off the shelf, and if someone is telling to you off the shelf, either they're violating the FDA guidelines, or it's more likely it's just expensive ethyl alcohol.
Oh.
Too bad.
That is really disappointing.
Chris, I like to say it's hugs, not drugs.
No, you
Right.
just gave Dave ammunition he should never have.
Yes, that is so awesome.
So,
No.
But-
I'm cutting that part out.
but the long and short of it is you can't buy something off the counter to slip it into someone's drink to make them more amiable to you or amenable.
That's correct. So I'll tell you another quick anecdote to illustrate that point. Again, early on, I went to a Department of Defense meeting. I was invited to speak about this work, just when it had come out. And I had this guy who was, I'm 6'4", 205. I had this guy who was about 6'3", about 250, 240. I mean, big guy. Just got back from Afghanistan, and he got in my face. He said, I investigate terrorists for a living. God damn it, I need this stuff tomorrow. And I said, look, I don't know anything about anything, but I understand that under the Geneva Convention, we're not supposed to be drugging prisoners. I'm not sure if we're following that anymore, but anyway, that's what the rules are. Number one. And number two, if you really wanted to drug people, there are much better drugs. So oxytocin, so think of us as sort of maintaining a balance between trust and distrust, or between approach and withdrawal. And we're modulating that, second by second as we navigate through the sea of strangers in which we live. And so oxytocin is just a subtle signal that moves us towards the trust or the approach side. Again, it doesn't take us from 0 to 100. It moves us from, say, neutral, 50 to 60. And it does it differentially across individuals. Some people are more responsive to this than others. In particular, women. Women, in every experiment we've run, actually release more oxytocin than men do, and are subsequently more empathic, more generous, more trustworthy. So now we know why women are nicer than men.
Well, you haven't met Ping.
It's just biology. So, again, there's other factors that can influence. Women are nicer than men, except over some phases of their menstrual cycle, they actually inhibit the oxytocin response. So usually they're nicer than men, but they're also more complicated. Once in a while they're not. Anyway, so the system is complicated, and that makes sense, right? This is an adaptive system, and we're adapting to the environment we're in, to our own physiologic state, to our developmental history. We've shown, for example, that women who have been repeatedly sexually abused as children, as adults, about half of them don't have this oxytocin response, and they have impaired social behaviors. And indeed, this work has spawned clinical trials now for oxytocin replacement therapy in autism, in schizophrenia, depression, social anxiety, some of which my lab has done, and lots of other labs have done it as well. So, it's and in all those clinical trials, it's not a cure. There's no cure for autism. It's not a cure for social anxiety, but it's one among a large number of brain chemicals that activate areas in the brain that tell us about the social environment that we're in.
What's funny is while you were talking, I had a link up because I wanted to ask you about the Amazon one, and I just scrolled down, and the ingredients are glycerin, purified water, alcohol, spearmint oil, and stevia.
There you go.
I mean, there's not even
So
oxytocin
why do
in
they
this
call
stuff.
it that?
Yeah, because it's called oxytocin factor.
Right.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
So I guess it must be a labeling issue or advertising issue. I don't know the regulations, but please, for listeners, don't buy them. Just So, oxytocin is called this chemical of love. So I think, one thing you can do, again, this is not for the stranger you first meet, when you go into a new business, but, tell the people around them that you love them. So, and by that I mean love in the philia sense, that I really care about you as a human being. So you can say, Dave, look, I've known you for years. You're a great guy. I really care about you, and I want you to know that I'm there for you. I've got your back, and if there's something I can do to make you happier, I'm going to do that because
that's all not true, by the way.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it, man.
It's really not true.
Thank you.
None of that's true.
So you can do that. So this is just biology. This is how we connect to others, and so just actually telling someone that I think is actually quite nice.
What about drugs like ecstasy, where they're kind of famous for people being like, "No, man, I love you," every time someone takes it, and people hooking up within seconds? Where does that sort of factor in? I mean, is that just like set your oxytocin response on hyperdrive, or is it something totally different?
No, that's Jordan or Dave?
Is it Jordan?
That's Jordan.
That's Jordan. Okay, so very good.
I say drugs, not hugs. That's my thing. Dave's the other way around.
Well, it turns out, Jordan, that just in the last year, scientists have discovered that ecstasy does cause the brain to make oxytocin. So part of that kind of loving the world is driven by oxytocin. Now, ecstasy works on primarily another pathway in the brain. It floods the brain with another chemical, serotonin, and high serotonin is the same thing you get when you take like magic mushrooms, psilocybin, and so it just disinhibits all your behaviors. And so so some of these drugs will actually do that, where all of a sudden you just feel completely disinhibited and connected. The problem with ecstasy, of course, is that it affects your temperature regulation, and people will get dehydrated and die. And in a small number of uses, like 10 to 12 uses, it looks like start to cause permanent brain damage. So kids, don't do drugs.
Yeah, we're definitely not into the, all joking aside, we're not into the drugs before hugs, but it's, naturally, because none of us are scientists or doctors in this field, we get interested and we start reading all these articles and research papers on it, and, it leads you down a path, and all of a sudden you're at oxytocinfactor.com. That's the main site, and they sell this stuff, this nasal spray that claims it has 10 IUs of oxytocin per squirt. Yeah. And this is what it says right on their website. I'm looking at it. You buy this stuff for $59, and there's 10 IUs of oxytocin per squirt in these bottles, and you get that, and it will reduce your stress and decrease anxiety. You have better sex, improve sleep, more energy, and you're going to love the world if you take this stuff and start shooting it up your nose. So of course, you look at something like that, and a non-knowing person would say, "Holy mackerel, this is the miracle drug."
True, right? Of course, it's mostly just alcohol, so it's probably not going to hurt you. It's just going to waste your money. But I do think you made a good point, and I think that's one of the take-homes from the book for listeners, is that oxytocin, at least in animals, and we have a little evidence in humans, that you can actually train yourself to be a better connector. In other words, you can train yourself to release more oxytocin by doing the things we just talked about, being present, being safe, and getting others to give you that same reciprocation. And I'm actually an introvert, and so I love nothing more than sitting in my lab, by myself, working with my data, working with blood, whatever I'm doing. But I've actually found over the last 5 years in this work, I've really tried to be a better connector, have connected to people around me, and it seems to have worked. I feel like I'm much happier. In fact, we've shown that people experimentally, those who release the most oxytocin, are happier in their lives, and they're happier, in fact, because they have better relationships of all types, romantic, friendships, family relationships. So I think we are a connecting species. Oxytocin is an evolutionarily old molecule in the mammal line. In fact, it predates mammals. It goes back at least 400 million years. A variant appears in fish. And so we need to connect to others. I think we should just accept that. We're social creatures. We don't like to be alone. It's stressful. So use that to your advantage, right? Learn how to connect to others really well. Get better at releasing oxytocin. And if you do that, you might actually, improve your how satisfied you are with your life. We've actually shown recently that oxytocin also reduces cardiovascular stress and improves the immune system. So boom, we got the big three there. So I think this is, part of the recipe for living a fulfilled and healthy life.
So maybe as a wrapping up question, is it is it possible that oxytocin could, having, let's say, a bad guy knowing how to build rapport and to talk to you and to validate you, is it possible that the release of that chemical could make you make a dumb decision and do something you shouldn't do?
Sure, absolutely. So you want to be aware of this very evolutionarily old, subtle, unconscious signal that your brain is giving you, but also be aware of the other signal, which is, hey, this seems too good to be true. This is too easy. I'm closing this deal too fast. This guy's running this check too fast, whatever it is. And so I think it's really trust but verify, but understand that the system can be hacked, right? So even Dave and I, when we hug everybody, we're hacking the system, basically, right? We're
Absolutely.
more or less forcing people's brains to release oxytocin. We want them to connect to us. And when Dave does it for nefarious reasons, I do it because I'm a good person. But,
I love this guy. I love him.
Just to be clear, I do it to because I'm affectionate towards people and enjoy people, and I like sharing hugs, but I do make them weird every once in a while.
You're a people person.
That's right.
But
he really is.
So if you're aware of these mechanisms in the brain, you can potentially control them better. So you can inhibit this response when it's inappropriate to have it be released, and you can be better at releasing oxytocin and connecting to others around you and generate stronger social relationships, more trust, and more happiness. And I should say, also great for meeting members of the opposite sex. So I actually met my wife on an airplane. And airplanes, you're stuck in there real close, and things are bouncing around. Great time to talk to people. So for the single listeners, I would say moderate stressors where you're sitting close together, like riding a roller coaster, perfect first date. So it's like having 10 dates. So it'll get you close to the other person, release oxytocin. Now you've been through this weird experience together. This is why people who survive, helicopter accidents. Who was that? The former wife of Billy Joel. What was her name? Crazy.
I don't remember.
Lady. Anyway, she was in a helicopter accident and then married this guy 3 months later that survived this accident with her.
Oh yeah, I was reading about those people that survived the plane that the pilot was smart enough to land in the Hudson River. Those guys have like a meeting once a year now. They all get together, like they have this bond, because they all survived together, and the guy who flew the plane is like their role model, their hero.
But like soldiers in war did the same thing. So even the soldiers who fought in battle, you survey them and ask them, who do you feel closest with? Number one is their children. Number two is the people they've served with. Number three is their spouse. Right? Their spouse didn't go through this amazing, life-changing experience of people, shooting bullets at you and trying to blow you up. So that's another take-home is that we've been doing a lot of work now on rituals and how rituals and stories induce the release of oxytocin. So I think, for businesses, or any organization, understanding, the founder story, how this business came to be, why we're here, how we improve people's lives, reinforcing that narrative through ritual. So every Friday we have happy hour, and we sit on the patio and we drink beer and we laugh about how hard we worked this week and blow off some steam. So having these rituals in place, I think, is a very important way to reinforce this sort of group bonding that we all really need. As much as we say, particularly Americans, like, we're independent, I don't care what people say about me. We really do care. And so if we care, then let's use that to our advantage.
This is fascinating. It really is. And I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, oh no, it went by too fast. It's like almost the time where you gotta go. But I wish we had more time to talk about it because it really is a fascinating topic for us. And what's interesting is that you've done the research and scientifically proved all these things. So these just aren't your opinions. These aren't just things that you come up with. And yet, for years, we've been talking about this from a different level, not because of the chemical oxytocin, but things like rapport building and validation and making people feel good. And now there's this scientific evidence behind it all that says, here's why what we've been saying is actually true and working. And it's very interesting to hear it, and that's why, like I said before, I use your video in our class of your TED speech, because it just, in like 10 minutes, you just nail it. You nail all these topics, and then, you talk about the different experiments you did, which I still find it crazy that you can drive just on some road for a couple hours and find a wedding and convinced all the people in the wedding to let you take their blood. I thought that was like a really crazy story. Very interesting, though.
And I think thank you for saying that, Chris. But also, I think the listeners should be skeptical. So we post all the scientific papers on my lab's website. So you can Google
Which is?
Paul Zach, it'll all come up. And what the scientific papers don't have is what we talked about today, and that's in the book, The Moral Molecule, in which is what it means, how you use it, how this affects your daily life, how it tells us why we've organized society in such a decentralized way, how we can do business around the world through the Internet, and actually how we build more connected, happier, and healthier societies. And so, as you said, lots of fun stories on there, so folks can look at moralmolecule.com. There's a bunch of free stuff. There's tests they can do, and information on the book. And everything's on Amazon now, so it's even the book is super cheap because it's discounted 50%.
Excellent. So moralmolecule.com. Do you have like a Twitter or something that people can follow you on? Because our followers love to do some research on people after they're on the podcast.
Absolutely. It's Paul J. Zach. So you can find me and all my followers, and I'm pretty active tweeter, and have a blog called The Moral Molecule, and so lots of information out there. And so people are free to explore all the stuff for free. In fact, we just came out with an app recently called an Oxytocin Trainer, which gives you 14 daily exercises to do for 2 weeks. Well, 14 exercises to do, one per day for 2 weeks, and it helps you be better at connecting to people around you. It's downloaded free at moralmolecule.com and available for Android and iPhone. So knock yourself out.
Really awesome. So the name of the book again is The Moral Molecule?
The Moral Molecule. The subtitle is The Source of Love and Prosperity.
Excellent. And the website is www.moralmolecule.com?
That's right.
Excellent. And is there anything else? Like you have any speeches or classes that you do or things that people, if they wanted to learn more from you?
That's great. So we have a lot of things online. So on the website, there's, as you said, TED Talks and videos and lots of media. I will be doing a course this summer on, massively online course that people can take for free.
Oh, excellent.
And determine where that's coming out. But, follow the Twitter feed and you'll get all the info. And I'm always
excellent.
On the road, by the way. So Friday to Denmark, next Tuesday in Italy, and so I may be coming to a city near you, so just keep tuned in.
That's great. We'll be checking out your site. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, really sharing your research with us. It's excellent, and we'll be sure to be talking to you again and reading more about you.
All right, you guys. It was a ball. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure, and thanks for validating my hugging.
Or my drugging.
Oh, boy. Bye.
That was intense.
Well, it was. It was a great podcast. I mean, to me, so I've been reading his research papers for at least the last 6 or 7 months after Robin and I stumbled on his book, and we were using it. We were using his video and stuff in the course, and that the one thing that he said is what attracted us to him is that he's. He doesn't just say this stuff and say, oh, believe me because I'm a researcher. He releases all of his research papers for free on the web. So you can go and read the studies that they did and how they came up with the thinking that he has. And it just seems to point to why this molecule seems to make people trust other people. Very interesting stuff. And interesting to hear that all this crap on Amazon is fake. Can't believe it. Here I was thinking, man, you can go buy some of this and start spritzing it in the air, and then people will be all trusting you.
Well, but not only is it fake, but you can't, it doesn't work that way, right? Like they said, it's 2 teaspoons that you have to put up through your nose.
Yeah.
So it's, even if you spritz it, I mean, is it raining it?
Yeah. 2 teaspoons is a lot of liquid.
Yep.
It's a lot of liquid, yeah. Yeah, so anyhow,
I thought he was
really awesome.
He was great, and for me, it's interesting to understand the science of what really happens, chemically, neurologically, around everything that happens, during human interaction. Because, it always fascinates me when I'm talking to another human being, what makes them tick, what makes them get excited, especially from a social engineering standpoint. So it's always good to hear, the science behind how everything's actually working. And I think, we're still just really tipping we're just at the tip of learning what really makes us kind of drive as human beings. And, as more and more medical research comes through, we're going to learn a lot more about what actually makes us behave.
Here I was thinking that this was going to end in one of the Dave jokes, and that was actually a useful comment.
It was. So, I was actually being honest in this way, shape, or form. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm confused. Don't even know how to handle this.
Sorry about that, guys. Sorry, everybody. I didn't mean to confuse the audience.
Yeah. So, another great podcast. I really like that guy, and his book is awesome, and his research is awesome, and we'll put the URL in the show notes so you guys can check it out, moralmolecule.com. So let's see. We had a couple things we want to talk to at the end before we concluded. First is DerbyCon.
DerbyCon.
The last couple months, Dave, since you've hated us and you've skipped on our podcast, even though your excuse is that you're busy, but like Jordan's really busy and he gets up really early and comes to the podcast, and Ping is in a wholly different time zone and she gets up and comes to the podcast, and you just couldn't make time for us. But even though that was the case, Ping has spent a lot of time promoting DerbyCon for you.
Well, for one, that's because Ping's awesome. And
she is awesome.
Yeah, so let's just throw that out there for sure.
Snicker. He's buttering me up for something.
Yeah, I'm sure. Hey, can you come run the con and make it awesome?
No, he's got Erin for that. She's super awesome. I don't need to climb up that flagpole or carry that flag. She's got that well in hand.
Erin is awesome, even if it's just because she sticks with him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm blessed every day having an awesome wife like that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the hugs. So DerbyCon, the call for training is open. Let me help you out, Dave. Let's start rolling on this. As a former conference organizer, I mean, you're doing a piss poor job here of promoting the event.
So let's just start off with the call for trainers has actually closed.
Oh, gosh darn.
We've actually selected the call for trainers. So that's basically going to be announced here shortly. But we have a great speaker lineup. We got some hardware hacking, some mobile hacking, some penetration testing classes. We have Carlos Perez coming and doing a class. We have Coral Encoder doing his exploit development class again this year. It's going to be a really awesome class. And last year, I think we had a total of 9 training events. This year we have 11. So it's definitely grown. And it's going to be an awesome, epic event. And, this year's training I'm really, really excited about. And we even have a really awesome human hacking class from the folks at Foundstone because Chris decided to ditch us completely this year and do his own thing. So it's going to be a good conference. And Chris is going to.
You chose the only date on Earth that I couldn't come. It's amazing.
Wait, and are you telling me that you didn't ask Jordan to hold a class there?
I already did, and I just sent that in the Skype window initially, and he didn't respond back. I said I want Jordan to do a class, and no one ever said anything.
Oh, did I miss?
When did you say this?
The window because it was in.
Go
Skype,
back into the scrolling things. I said, Jordan, it'd be awesome for you to have a class at DerbyCon. Are you interested? And then I didn't hear anything back.
It's probably
when was
because
this?
It's probably because I was on the podcast talking and participating.
Okay. So Jordan, I don't know if you would like to do a podcast or not, but I'm interested in that.
I think you need to let Jordan do a class there. Make some room.
That would be cool.
I can't believe you actually chose a competitor for me and have a class there.
And Foundstone, nonetheless, the first time they're hosting that class is at Black Hat, so you're kind of taking leftovers.
I'm a little hurt, actually.
Well, just so you know, Chris, it actually has nothing to do with the type of class you give. It's more on technical social engineering, so SAT and things like that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, I mean, if you decided not to ditch me, that would have been great.
I know it would have been great if you actually helped me with a good date.
Yeah, I can't pick my dates, it's around you, unfortunately. I know you think you can, but
well, I think you should. I think I'm that important.
Here, I just posted it in the window. Can you see that, Jordan?
Yeah.
A condensed Art of Charm class? I mean, seriously, dude.
Just say yes.
That's not what it is. You're just being a hater. My students are cool guys. They go out there, learn how to talk to people, not just girls. A lot of married guys come through. Chris is just jelly because he didn't get a class.
And then they go and use handcuffs and lock you. I'm sorry.
Jordan, are you going to do a class at Derby?
At Derby, that'd be cool. I gotta bring it to my team to make sure that that's cool, but I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, all right.
So,
Well, run it.
Art
Sure,
of
make
Charm
sure
will
I'll
be
get it.
hosting a miniature boot camp at DerbyCon. Everybody.
Ping just announced it, and he hasn't even brought it to his team yet.
That sounds
Well,
great. Yeah.
I can always, you know what? If his team says no, and by the time Jordan gets back from Korea, because he'll miss it, then we'll say sorry. His team said no, and that means everyone now has to pay more money and do the boot camp, which he's sold out of until fall anyway.
Right. Well, the trick will be finding, like, a balance of, I'll probably have to do mostly classroom work and drill because I won't have enough field coaches to take like 20 dudes to a bar, obviously.
Yeah.
But I can just do like classroom work. That's fine.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And you should give them
Just
homework.
use Dave's.
Give them homework on like having to go out and pick up chicks at night and share the results with the class at night or something like that. That'd be cool.
I'll just take Chris Hadnagy's sheet of exercises from social engineering for pen testing and then put an AOC logo at the top, and that'll be the homework. What do you think?
Oh, why not? Because Dave's already got a copycat class at DerbyCon from, So
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, why not?
Sounds
Everyone else is
pretty
doing
clutch.
it.
Sounds about right.
Well, I hate to tell you, Chris, but you're not the only guy that knows social engineering.
Oh, I know.
But at the same time, you're my favorite person that does social engineering. So
What do you want?
So, Chris, I would have had you at DerbyCon if you could have came, but instead you ditched me.
I know. All right. I'm actually really sad about that.
Yeah, but when did Chris ditch you?
I told him at the last Derby. I asked him, "Do you know the dates?"
And then you waited. I'm broken here, Dave. Then you waited. This is why I need to be an event organizer that you pay if you don't pay Aaron. Then you waited 6 months before you asked Jordan on a Skype chat window while we're on the podcast.
No, listen.
100,000 ways to get a hold of other people.
Okay, so anyhow, Derby is what's the dates, Dave?
Well, so real quick, just so everybody knows, tickets actually go on sale April 1st. So the training and the tickets for DerbyCon actually go on sale April 1st. It's at 12:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then call for papers actually opens that same day as well. So you can submit your call for papers. You can also submit, you have to purchase your tickets. We'll also have the hotel link posted that same day, so you can register for the hotel. But the actual dates, the training's going to run from the 25th and 26th, so it's 2 full days before the conference that you get training. And it's $1,000 per person, and then for the 2 days. And then the conference itself runs from the 27th to the 29th, so that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is the actual conference itself.
Awesome, man.
Awesome.
Okay, well, guys, another awesome podcast. Dr. Zach rocks. Thank you for that huge ding in my ear.
He was really good, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, we have a lot of great guests on the podcast, but I mean, I really enjoy understanding like the chemical stuff that happens with us and interactions and the things that are released. So that was really fascinating for me, and I learned a lot. So thanks to Dr. Paul for coming on.
I knew you would like it just because of the hugging thing.
Well, I mean, the hugging thing definitely has a huge, part in my heart. But at the end of the day, that was still an awesome podcast, and just proves to show you that I'm not crazy. I am not crazy.
Well,
and
I don't know if that proves that you're not crazy, but I was waiting. I was waiting. Anyhow, if you want to check us out, you got social-engineer.org as well as the corporate site at social-engineer.com on the irc.freenode.net IRC channel social-engineer. Twitter, we're Human Hacker, also SOC Engineer Inc. for the corporate Twitter. And that's about it. Well, I guess we'll see you guys next month. See ya.
You've never even heard of me, but I'm just so polite, and you're returning every courtesy. We're a perfect team, racking up a perfect score. Always have my hands full, you always hold the door. Gather info, you wouldn't take control at first. Shoulder surf your folder surf so I can find your older work. Water cooler, small talk, conversation, banter. Really, I'm just probing while I'm listening for answers. Sure, there's plenty policies, but no one follows standards. Thanks to all the folks who come to work with different landings. Max strike, watermarks, all your ARFID tags. But no one's really looking at my counterfeited badge. Even still though, there's not a chance to see. You can tell by how I walk, I've got somewhere else to be. Cause I'm confident, like I'm in a hurry, like I've got work to do, like I'm going places. Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm, cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm no signal, my battery is finished. Hey, could I go and use your phone for a minute? Thanks, yo, I had to make a call to play it down while my rootkit exfilled your data to the cloud. Plan to stall, stand appalled, gotta take my time scanning all your systems, the ones you didn't wipe. Scamming y'all, I got terabytes of drives. Cannonball in the dumpster when I dive. Black and white, all the info with the details, and what type of person really prints out emails. Still intact, all the sentences and questions. I mean, paper shredders really aren't that expensive. Yup, we want it all, the kit and caboodle. It's not that impressive, I just know how to Google. Found the CEO with the social network name, sir. Nope, it's dual core, we're just leveraging the framework. Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm, cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm playing. Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm, cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. If you know what I'm saying. Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm, cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm playing. Know what I'm saying. Know what I'm saying. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying.